You're watching Newsday TV. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ken Bufa. Two men were sentenced to prison today for two separate deadly DWI crashes in Nassau County. Macy Eglin was in court.
Sentencing today for two drivers who pled guilty to separate deadly DWI crashes in Nassau County. 33-year-old Sotirios Spanos of Syosset will spend 7 to 21 years in prison for killing Ismania and Odalis Urena in a crash in August of last year. Prosecutors say he was doing more than 100 miles per hour on Northern Boulevard in Laurel Hollow when he crossed into incoming traffic.
Two children no longer have their mother and father because this defendant was drunk and reckless.
They just knew how to bring the good out of anyone and any situation.
Spanos' attorney disappointed with the punishment.
32 years of doing criminal defense, I don't think I've found somebody to be more remorseful and accepting of responsibility.
22-year-old Dante Devon Lennon of Freeport also learned his fate. He was given 6 to 18 years in prison for driving drunk and hitting a family as they left a Sweet 16 party in New Hyde Park in May of 2022. The grandmother of the young girl, 66-year-old Marlene Liu, was killed, along with 68-year-old Hua Ho and 41-year-old Tu Win. The victim's family said in court they feel an overwhelming sense of emptiness. Lennon broke down sobbing in the courtroom, saying he was sincerely sorry and can't look at himself in the mirror.
That was one of the most emotional courtrooms I've ever been a part of, and it was real from both sides. His remorse is real.
Records show 90 people died in Nassau and Suffolk counties in alcohol-related crashes in 2022 alone.
Impaired is impaired is impaired, and you can take someone else's life and ruin your own.
Reporting for Newsday TV, I'm Macy Eglin.
The village of Hempstead says the owner of a house that caught fire had more than 21 violations.
For not having a rental permit, for doing work in the building without license, plumbing work, electrical work, and all of these cases are in our court now.
Here's video of the scene on Front Street from Saturday. The violations date back to the year 2000. And the Cricket World Cup Stadium is officially coming down. The temporary stadium hosted thousands of people over the span of nearly 2 weeks. Nearly 200 crew members will work 12-hour days, 6 to 7 days a week to take it all down. They have until July 31st to finish. And the Islanders released its 6-game preseason schedule today. The preseason opener will be against the Devils at the Prudential Center on September 22nd. Only in Newsday, there's a spike in crime on the Long Island Railroad. Alfonso Castillo breaks down the numbers.
Commuters keep saying they're concerned about their safety in the transit system, and MTA officials keep pointing out that crime is actually much lower in the subways than it was a generation ago. But they can't say the same about the Long Island Railroad.
It can make you very tense. Yes, absolutely.
According to MTA police statistics obtained by Newsday, the 164 major crimes committed in the LIRR in 2023 were the most in a decade. And the numbers are even worse when you account for the fact that ridership remains well below pre-COVID levels. Per capita, the LIRR crime rate in 2023 was the highest in at least 18 years.
From 2006 to 2023, crime on the Long Island Railroad rose by more than 40%, and the number of assaults went up by even more, tripling from 2006 to 2023.
MTA police stepped up patrols on board LIRR trains last year and have suggested that may have actually contributed to the rise in assaults, as there were more opportunities for confrontations between cops and unruly passengers.
You know, this is an understandable and result of that increased enforcement.
At Mineola Station last week, several riders said they were not worried about being the victim of a crime on the LIRR, especially with more cops riding trains.
Do you have any concerns about your safety on the Long Island Railroad?
Not on the Long Island Railroad. Crime That's number one reason I think a lot of my friends that used to take the subway have opted to take the Long Island Railroad to avoid situations like that. And it's the number one reason.
Governor Kathy Hochul even brought up transit safety concerns when defending her decision to hold off on implementing the MTA's congestion pricing plan. Monica Lyons was among those who believed pushing people to take the train rather than their cars to Manhattan could make matters worse.
All that congestion is going to be on the trains. How is the police going to be able to handle all of that means more felonies, more crime, I believe.
In Mineola, Alfonso Castillo for NewsdayTV.
Now, to read more about the crime on the tracks, go to Newsday.com, click Get More below the NewsdayTV video box. All right, let's have a look back today at when Long Island caught disco fever. Rafer Guzman has the story you'll see only in Newsday.
Do the hustle. Disco was a way of life for many, filling dance floors across the country and here on Long Island.
They had many clubs here where they had anywhere from 700 to 1,000 people an evening or more.
I'm standing in front of 2965 Hempstead Turnpike in Levittown. Behind me is what used to be Uncle Sam's, one of the hottest discos on Long Island.
A three-part documentary called Disco, Soundtrack of a Revolution, comes to PBS June 18th. It's the story of a music that was born in the Black, Latino, and gay nightclubs of urban cities and quickly became a global phenomenon. The epicenter was Studio 54 in Manhattan, but Long Island had its own vibrant scene.
Right now, we're in a restaurant called Docks. It's in Island Park. In the mid-70s, it was a club called Speaks, and sometimes it was called Speakeasy. And it was the first major dance disco club in Long Island.
Among the early disco tracks were Fly Robin Fly by Silver Convention and The Hustle by Van McCoy and the Soul City Symphony. But it was Saturday Night Fever, the 1977 film starring John Travolta, that took disco mainstream. On Long Island, nightclubs seemed to open every week. One local promoter opened a teenage disco called Guys and Dolls in Franklin Square.
The act of Gloria Gaynor, she performed one evening. We did Donna Summer one evening. We did the Village People one evening. Back then, those were some of the acts that we also did events where we would allow the younger kids to come and see and participate in dancing along with them performing. And they had a wonderful time.
A backlash followed, most famously the 1979 Disco Demolition Night, where a Chicago DJ blew up a crate of disco albums. The fad soon faded, replaced by punk, new wave, and hip-hop. But even today, the sound of disco is still alive. I'm Rafer Guzman for Newsday TV.
Now, to read more about the history of disco on Long Island, go to Newsday.com, click Get More below the Newsday TV video box. Now let's take a look at your somewhat hot Long Island weather. If you were out there today, it was pretty elevated when it came to the temps, and we'll see that again tomorrow. So take a look at tonight's temperatures. You can see we are near 70s, but tomorrow it's going to be another hot one with sun up above and some clouds joining it. So here's a 7-day forecast. Doesn't look the best this weekend, but that could change. It's still early.
Long Island weather is brought to you by Fire Island Ferries.
You're watching Newsday TV. I'm Ken Buffa. Thank you so much for joining us.